A customs officer just revealed that one wrong answer to a standard question can flag you for secondary screening, device searches, and hours of detention. 13 questions are asked at every US entry point, and how you answer determines whether you breeze through in 5 minutes or get detained for 5 hours. And question number 1? A retired border agent calls it the trap question designed to catch 90% of travelers in a lie. What you're about to learn could be the difference between a smooth entry and a nightmare that ruins your entire trip. We're counting down from 13 to 1, and each question has a hidden purpose that most travelers never understand. By number 8, you'll discover why telling the truth can actually get you detained longer. By number 4, we'll expose the casual question that triggers automatic luggage searches. And the number 1 question. An immigration attorney says, answer it wrong, and you've just given them legal justification to deny you entry, even if you're a US citizen. Miss this, and your next international trip could end at customs. Let's start at number 13, where most travelers make their first critical mistake before even reaching the officer. Question 13. What is the purpose of your visit? This seems straightforward. It's not. This question establishes the legal basis for your entry, and one wrong word can trigger investigations. The correct answers are simple and specific. Tourism, business meeting, visiting family, or connecting flight. That's it. Don't elaborate unless asked. Here's what gets travelers in trouble: over-explaining. One traveler said, tourism, but I might look at some real estate while I'm here. That triggered a business visa violation investigation. Another said, visiting friends and doing some freelance work remotely. That flagged unauthorized employment concerns. A former customs officer told me, we're trained to listen for contradictions. The purpose question is your sworn statement. If you say tourism, but your luggage has business materials, we have grounds for secondary screening. The rule: match your answer to your visa or entry authorization exactly. Tourist visa, say tourism. Business visa, say business. Visiting friends, say that and nothing more. One business consultant learned this the hard way. He had a tourist visa but mentioned attending a conference. That's business activity. He spent 4 hours in secondary screening, proving he wasn't working illegally. Question number 12. How long will you be staying? This isn't casual conversation. It's verifying you're not overstaying your authorized entry period. Give specific dates or duration. 10 days, 2 weeks, until March 15th. Don't say, I'm not sure, or as long as I want. Vague answers suggest you don't have a departure plan, which raises overstay concerns. Here's the trap. Your answer must match your return ticket. If you say 1 week, but your return flight is in 3 weeks, that's a red flag. Officers assume you're lying about either your intentions or your plans. Bring proof. Printed return tickets, hotel reservations, or event tickets showing your departure timeline. You probably won't need them, but having them demonstrates you have a plan. One tourist said, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, depends how I feel. That triggered questions about financial means, ties to home country, and intentions. What should have been a 2-minute interaction became 30 minutes of interrogation. Question 11. Where will you be staying? This question verifies you have accommodation and aren't planning to disappear into the country. Provide a specific address, hotel name and city, relative's full address, or Airbnb location. If staying with friends, know their full name and address. I'm figuring it out is an automatic secondary screening trigger. Here's what customs officers look for. Consistency. If you're visiting family, saying a hotel downtown raises questions about why you're not staying with family. If you claim to be wealthy tourists but can't name where you're staying, that's suspicious. One traveler said, my friend's place. I don't remember the exact address. That led to a phone call to the friend, verification of the relationship, and questions about how well they actually knew each other. 30 minutes of interrogation over a preventable mistake. Save addresses in your phone notes before landing. Have hotel confirmations accessible. If staying with someone, have their contact information ready. Question number 10. Have you visited any farms or been around livestock? This seems random. It's actually critical for agricultural biosecurity, and lying has serious consequences. The honest answer is required by law. If you visited a farm, ranch, or animal facility abroad, you must declare it. Your shoes and luggage may carry diseases that could devastate U.S. agriculture. Here's the trap. Travelers think saying yes guarantees luggage searches and delays, so they lie. But customs has detection systems. If your shoes have manure residue or your bags contain soil, and you said no to this question, you've now committed a federal violation. The penalty for knowingly false agricultural declarations can reach $10,000 fines and entry denial. One traveler visited a farm in Ireland, lied about it, and was caught when his hiking boots tested positive for soil. He paid a $1,500 fine and missed his connecting flight. If you visited farms, say so. The inspection takes 5 extra minutes. Lying risks everything. Question number 9. Are you carrying more than $10,000 in currency? U.S. law requires declaring currency or monetary instruments exceeding $10,000. This includes cash, traveler's checks, and bearer bonds from all travelers in your group combined. The threshold is cumulative. If you have $6,000 and your spouse has $5,000, that's $11,000. Total, requiring declaration. Many couples don't realize this and face penalties. Here's what happens if you lie: currency seizure, federal investigation, and potential criminal charges. Customs has detection equipment and trained cash-sniffing dogs. If they find undeclared currency, they assume it's criminal proceeds. One family of 4 each carried $3,000, $12,000 total. They didn't declare it because individually they were under the limit. Customs seized the entire amount and required legal proceedings to recover it months later. Declaration doesn't prevent you from bringing money. It's just paperwork. Lying forfeits the money and creates criminal liability. Question number 8. What is your occupation? This question cross-references against your stated purpose and visa type. Inconsistencies trigger investigations. Answer honestly but strategically. If you're a photographer on a tourist visa, saying photographer might trigger questions about whether you're working. Say, I work in marketing, or whatever your primary employment is that isn't related to your trip purpose. Here's the nuance. Customs assumes anyone with portable skills. Writers, consultants, photographers, programmers might work illegally while abroad. If your occupation matches activities you might do during your trip, expect follow-up questions. One freelance writer said her occupation was writer while entering on a tourist visa. She spent an hour proving she wasn't being paid for any writing during her trip. Her laptop was searched for contracts or client communications. The safer approach: describe your occupation in generic terms unless directly asked for specifics. I work in communications instead of freelance journalist. Question number 7. Do you have anything to declare? This is the customs trap question. Nothing is often the wrong answer, and saying it can trigger penalties if you're wrong about what requires declaration. Items requiring declaration include gifts exceeding $800 value, alcohol over 1 liter, tobacco products over 200 cigarettes, commercial goods, food items, plants, medications, and anything you're bringing for someone else. Here's what travelers miss. Items you bought abroad for personal use still require declaration if they exceed duty-free allowances. That $200. What you bought in Switzerland. Declarable. Those 5 bottles of wine? Declarable. The penalty for false declaration is seizure of items, fines up to 3 times the item's value, and potential criminal charges. One traveler bought a $2,000 handbag in Paris, didn't declare it, and was caught during random screening. The bag was seized, and she paid a $3,500 penalty. When in doubt, declare it. The worst outcome of declaring something you didn't need to is a 2-minute conversation. The worst outcome of not declaring something you should have is thousands in penalties. Question number 6. Has anyone given you anything to bring to the US? The correct answer is always no, and you should make sure that's actually true before answering. This question targets unwitting drug or contraband mules. Smugglers give unsuspecting travelers packages to carry, claiming it's a gift for my cousin or documents for my business partner. Here's the law. You're legally responsible for everything in your possession, regardless of who gave it to you. If someone hands you a package to deliver and it contains drugs, you face federal trafficking charges. A retired customs officer explained, "We see this constantly. Nice elderly people carrying packages for a friend they met on vacation. The package has cocaine. They say, 'I didn't know,' but ignorance isn't a defense. They're charged with smuggling." One grandmother was asked to bring a package of coffee to her traveling companion's nephew in the US. It was cocaine. She faced federal charges and spent $40,000 on legal defense to prove she was duped. Never carry anything for someone else. Never. No exceptions. Question number 5. Have you been to specific countries recently? Officers ask about recent travel to high-risk countries for disease, terrorism, or smuggling. Your answer is cross-checked against your passport stamps. Be honest. They can see your passport. If you visited Iran, Yemen, Somalia, or other watched countries, they already know. Lying destroys your credibility and triggers intensive investigation. Here's the issue. Travelers think admitting to certain countries guarantees problems, so they lie. But officers understand legitimate travel to these places. What they can't tolerate is dishonesty. One businessman visited Dubai with a day trip to Iran for meetings. When asked about recent travel, he omitted Iran. The officer saw the Iranian stamp and immediately escalated to secondary screening. What could have been a 5-minute explanation became a 2-hour interrogation about why he lied. If you visited sensitive countries, be prepared to explain the purpose briefly and honestly. Business meetings, family visit, tourism. That's sufficient. Question number 4. Are you traveling alone? This seems innocuous. It's actually screening for trafficking, smuggling networks, and immigration fraud. Answer truthfully and consistently. If you're traveling with others, say so. If alone, say so. Don't change your story. Here's the trap. If you're meeting someone in the US, officers may ask who. If you say just friends, but your phone shows romantic messages with someone you're meeting, that's a red flag for visa fraud. People claim tourism, but are actually visiting romantic partners to establish grounds for marriage visas. One woman said she was traveling alone for tourism, but her luggage contained a wedding dress. Secondary screening revealed she was meeting her fiancé to get married. Visa fraud. She was denied entry and banned from the US for 5 years. The rule: if you're meeting someone significant, romantic partner, business associate, family, disclose it up front. The truth might generate questions, but lies guarantee problems. Question number 3. What do you do for work? Follow-up. This is the deep dive version of the occupation question, asked during secondary screening or when officers suspect unauthorized work. They're checking if your occupation matches your visa, your stated purpose, and your financial means. Inconsistencies suggest you're entering to work illegally. Here's the scenario. You're on a tourist visa, but your LinkedIn shows you're actively seeking US employment. Or you're a consultant with clients in the US visiting on a tourist visa. These trigger intensive questioning. One software developer entered on a tourist visa to visit friends. His laptop was searched and revealed emails about job interviews with US companies. He was denied entry, and his tourist visa was revoked. "I wasn't working, just interviewing," he protested. It didn't matter. He used a tourist visa for business purposes. The safest approach: ensure your online presence, luggage contents, and devices don't contradict your stated purpose. If you're truly on vacation, don't carry business materials. Question number 2. Can I see your phone? This is the question travelers fear most, and understanding your rights is critical. US Customs and Border Protection has legal authority to search electronic devices at the border without warrants. This includes phones, laptops, tablets, and storage devices. You can refuse, but that typically results in denied entry for non-citizens or hours of detention for citizens. Here's what they're looking for: evidence of unauthorized work, visa fraud, trafficking, smuggling communications, or terrorism connections. They search messages, photos, social media, and emails. One traveler had text messages discussing bringing packages across the border for payment. It was innocuous. She was being paid to bring legal items for a friend's business, but the language suggested smuggling. She spent 6 hours in detention while agents verified everything was legal. Before international travel, clean your devices. Delete anything that could be misinterpreted. Jokes about bombs or drugs, messages discussing work if you're on a tourist visa, photos from locations that contradict your stated travel history. And here's the critical advice: never lie about your device contents. If asked, "Do you have anything illegal on your phone?" and you say no, but they find something questionable, you've now lied to a federal officer. Question number 1. Have you ever been arrested or convicted of a crime? And here's the number 1 question, the one with the most severe consequences for dishonesty. This question appears on entry forms, and officers ask it verbally during secondary screening. The law requires disclosing any arrests or convictions, even if charges were dropped, expunged, or occurred decades ago. Even minor offenses, DUI, shoplifting, disorderly conduct, must be disclosed. Here's the trap that destroys people. They think it was expunged so it doesn't count, or it was 30 years ago so they won't know. Wrong. Immigration databases contain arrest records regardless of disposition. If you say no, and they find records, you've committed immigration fraud. The penalty for lying: permanent entry ban, visa revocation, and potential criminal charges for making false statements to federal officers. One traveler lied about a 20-year-old DUI conviction. Border agents found it in seconds. He was denied entry and banned from the US for life. Even US citizens face consequences. One citizen lied about an arrest when returning from abroad. She was detained for 8 hours while agents verified she wasn't involved in criminal activity abroad. Her global entry was revoked permanently. The honest answer might trigger questions and additional screening, but it's legal. Lying is a federal crime that follows you forever. Here's the nuance. Arrests without convictions, dismissed charges, and expunged records still count for immigration purposes. The question asks, have you ever been arrested? Not, Do you have a criminal record? There's a difference. One immigration attorney explained, "Clients think I'm crazy when I tell them to disclose a shoplifting arrest from 1985 that was dismissed. But immigration law doesn't care about dismissals. Dishonesty about it creates worse problems than the arrest itself." If you have any criminal history, consult an immigration attorney before international travel. They can advise on disclosure strategy and prepare documentation proving rehabilitation. But here's what ties all 13 questions together. Customs and immigration officers are trained to detect deception, not to facilitate your entry. Every question is designed to catch inconsistencies, lies, or grounds for denial. The system assumes you're hiding something until proven otherwise. Your job is to provide clear, consistent, honest answers that give them no reason to dig deeper. One contradiction, one lie, one evasive answer, and you're flagged for the intensive screening that ruins your trip. The travelers who breeze through aren't lucky. They're prepared, honest, and strategic about what they disclose. So here's the reality. These 13 questions aren't casual conversation. They're legal interrogations, where your answers create sworn statements that officers will verify: purpose of visit, duration, accommodation, currency, occupation, declarations, arrests. Every answer is checked against databases, your devices, your luggage, and your travel history. Inconsistencies guarantee detention. The strategy is simple. Prepare answers before landing. Be honest even when uncomfortable. Never volunteer information beyond what's asked. And have documentation ready to support your claims. If this video just saved you from customs detention or entry denial, hit that like button. Subscribe for more international travel strategies that protect your rights and freedom of movement. And comment below if you've ever been detained at customs. Your experience helps other travelers avoid the same fate. Travel. Informed, not intimidated. Not intimidated. Not intimidated.